Hey folks, how's it going? Happy Sunday. Happy end of, depending on where you live, all the April showers that have been happening in certain parts of the country. At any rate, it's been a while. Feels like it's been a really long time since I've been here. So last time I showed off a whole bunch of shiny, fun things that I got for my birthday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do have something else that I was going to show. And then I had something else that I was going to show, but I don't know where I put that other thing. So, whatever. So I'll show you this, because I think this is really lovely. It's stretchy, so I can, fit my other finger in there. So it fits over whatever size you got. And I think that's kind of nice. Anyway, how you doing? I hope your day is good. It is, it is now officially, according to how I gauge things, summer in Florida. Only because it's been like 89 all week. And to my way of thinking, that's definitely summer material. So, has anyone been doing anything interesting? The town that I live in is terrible. Let's just say that. And I mean that in terms of it being a town. So technically I live in the county and not the town proper. Even though my zip code is the town proper. And the town itself is like not walkable. It's got one of the most dangerous streets in the country. And then there's another big street that intersects it that's got a lot of shopping, but not a lot of other stuff. And so it's kind of depressing sometimes. However, the next town over is so charming. They've got like this little downtown with a theater and a bunch of restaurants. They've got food trucks and a actually lovely walkable park where they have all sorts of stuff. Oh no, I don't live in a rural area at all. Not right now at any rate. It's just so, but the other is so charming. It's just like so nice. And they have like almost anything I could think of. And I really find that so appealing. And I hope that someday when I move again, that I end up in an area where it's a little bit more walkable. It's not always possible, to make that happen, but I've discovered that I truly love being in that kind of situation. So I'm going to, seek it out. It makes me feel very happy. Even though it's like 10 minutes drive away, it makes me feel very happy that I can go there and walk around and sort of like enjoy all the delightful little activities that they have to offer. If you are a town developer, I encourage you to make your downtown fun and walkable. It's just like absolutely lovely. Anyway, okay. Yeah, Florida is very dystopian. So I keep thinking about what I do here on these lives. Because sometimes I have a thought about what I want to make happen, and sometimes somebody in the chat has got a really great thought about what they want me to make happen in terms of a hypnosis experience. But sometimes it's limited, right? Because this is live, anybody could watch it, even though it says it's not for children, it doesn't mean much. So I try to always sort of pull my punches here, maybe all the time, I don't know. I definitely have had people say, oh, that wasn't as evil a file as I hoped it would be. So anyway, if you have thoughts about where you would like today's hypno trance experience to go, please let me know. I'm open to experiences, and I am happy to do fun and different things that I haven't yet done. I thought about maybe doing something, playing around with like your size perception. And I think it's sort of fascinating to shrink things down. There's a couple games, you know, that make you really tiny, and all of a sudden you're in your yard and you have to get back to your house, or something similar to that. A friend of mine used to tell me that they really loved, it wasn't their kink, but they loved playing with people whose kink was being shrunk down, and they would like pick them up and put them in their pocket or put them in their hand or whatever. It always seems so fragile. And like, if you have ever, say, tried to kill a bug walking across your floor, you may have succeeded, but sometimes they move quicker than you expect. I don't know how quick a tiny little human moves in that situation. Anyway, I'm not trying to get murderous or anything. I'm just saying, like, my brain is like, is there an appeal to you of that sort of thing? You know, where do you go? What's going to happen to you? How do you make those sorts of things fun for your brain? I'm like always trying to mitigate risk. So, so my brain goes there sometimes. So I do a lot of things in here that make noise or could make noise. And I've shown some of them before. I don't know if people, hello. I just want to say thank you for all of you being here. Maybe I should start to whisper, because that goes better with ASMR, right? I have so many things with like little bits on them. I'm afraid if I scrape them too much, they will all just fall apart. So this is not related to ASMR at all, but I'm trying to learn how to make friends with crows. I think it's absolutely fascinating how smart they are. And so I know that there are some in the neighborhood. I have started to leave out peanuts and some shiny things, just in the hopes that that would attract them to there. And what we have down here, or at least coming to the house and eating the peanuts that I've left out for them, they're unsalted, roasted peanuts in the shell, by the way, are grackles. They were out at the neighbor's house when I was when I was thinking about this the first time, and I started like talking, which is to say like whistling at the grackles, and they like look, or across the street looking at me and making those little head things. And so I've been leaving them out for them, and I can see them on the camera come like fly in, decide which one they want, fly off. Another one will come. Sometimes there's a couple, sometimes there's just one. And I think I would like to see how far I can take it. I don't know what that means. I really do want to make friends with the crows as opposed to the grackles. I'm not opposed to making friends with the grackles. I just heard that the crows are very smart, and I would like to see how much friendship a human / crow could develop. And I think it sounds like a fun thing. interesting to me that you said that, because I think one of the things that I might talk about today in our trance, whatever we decide to do, will be, for me as much as it is for you guys, which is to say, I'm going to talk about creativity a little bitty bit. And I'm going to talk about creativity so that I can help myself come up with some more fun ideas. There are a lot of ideas out there, right? Like, I know there are a lot of ideas out there because I have helped to put together a list, which I call the big trigger list, of a whole bunch of ideas for doing hypnosis. Except some of them I don't think are all that fun. Other people may have differences of opinion, so it's totally fine. Let's see. Gloves to hypnotize somebody. Yes, I have used them. You know, I made a video of that, and let me tell you, I have a couple pairs of gloves that I really like, and one is like green leather, and the other is like black leather with like fur at the collars, at the cuffs. And I have made videos, I believe, with both of those. I do not know where they are right now. I thought I had put them up or out somewhere. But right here, right now, it's very warm here. I don't have a temperature gauge in here, but I will tell you that I am already sweating. So I probably would only do that in actual Florida winter, so you'd have to wait months for that to happen, because it is too warm to wear gloves. And I have too many shiny things on my fingers that probably won't come off well. This one is better in a little bit of low light, don't you think? Like when it's blown out, it's not quite as good, but up close with a little bit of darkness. Let's see if we can make that. Looks a little blue, but pretty sure it's all just shiny. So, oh, there we go. It finally got focus. Focus is a funny thing, isn't it? Because when hypnosis is talked about, it's often talked about as though that's all hypnosis is, that focus, concentration on something. I know you guys like this one too. And when you find yourself focusing on something, it makes it easy to let everything else slide away, doesn't it? And the more you find yourself thinking about what I'm showing you, i.e. focusing your attention and thinking about the thing I'm showing you, you might discover one of my favorite things, especially if you're staring at your screen. One of my favorite things to do when I hypnotize somebody who, say, is brand new to me, and maybe hypnosis is brand new to them, I like to have them start with their eyes open, and I like to have them focus on something. Usually something on their wall, or something like at the corner of their ceiling in their wall, right? So you can focus on this. It moves, it's different, but that's okay. If it's not too close to your face, or maybe if it is close, you know, I've got a whole bunch of windows open, and one of them is this ring in much larger than life color over here. But as you find yourself focusing on one spot, it doesn't matter if it's this ring or something else, one of my favorite phenomena is that at some point in time, it begins to feel to me like there's a tunnel between me and the thing I'm staring at. And as I stare at the thing, And I see that tunnel. It's like the tunnel, everything around becomes like a gray-green cloud. That's my personal experience. Yours is likely to be different, but that's what mine looks like and feels like. I also, because I'm so close to this and I have a very good ability at doing those magic eye puzzles, you know, where you sort of have to defocus your eyes, I'm seeing at least 2 of these. I say at least 2 because I'm seeing the back of it. I'm seeing 2 in one of the screens that is showing, and then there are 2 other images of it as well in front of me. So I see a lot of these in my peripheral vision, but mostly I stare at this thing and I see things in my peripheral vision, and there's this tunnel around me and the thing I'm staring at. And then that gray-green cloud shows up and helps me focus even more effortlessly on the thing I'm staring at, which is this pretty, pretty shiny ring right now. And then the more I stare at it, the more it feels, even if it's not moving, especially if it's not moving maybe, as though I'm moving closer or further away to it, or it's moving closer or further away to me. My eyes get a little tired, they get a little exhausted. It might begin to feel weird when I blink. It might begin to feel weird when you blink. But however you find yourself doing it, however you blink or don't, perhaps you can realize that your brain likes staring at something, that your brain likes focusing on something, that your unconscious mind feels that pull, whether it's this ring or something else, feels it being pulled toward you or being pulled away from you, or you being pulled toward or away from it. I don't know what experience you have, and if yours is different than mine, I would absolutely love for you to share that when this is over. But for you to find yourself thinking about how fascinating it is to just give in, how good it feels to just give in, and how at some point in time when it feels better to keep your eyes shut than to shut them and open them, i.e. blink, you just let that happen and you find yourself giving in. You find yourself surrendering to that state, that altered state that you find yourself in. You know, you don't need much to go deeply into trance. You don't need much to go into an altered state. And you know, there's a lot of people that disagree with the word deeply, and for a lot of things I do too. But some people, especially if they're new to being hypnotized, they may discover that it feels like they can come out of it easily or effortlessly. But the more you do it, the more practice you get, the more you understand and know what it feels like to be in an altered state, the more your brain says, oh, this is a good thing. Oh, I want to be here. The less you find yourself so excited by being in this state that you pull yourself out, the more magical it can become. So you can allow yourself to let this become a little bit more magical. You can allow yourself to feel how good that is to focus. You can allow yourself to think about how you can focus on whatever it is you please and have that same experience no matter where you are or what you're doing. I think that open eye trances are personally easiest for me, but I know plenty of people who like to close their eyes. I just find it easiest to go into trance when I'm staring at something. I feel like it's kind of that whole sitting in class on a lazy spring day and the windows are open and you can hear the sounds outside coming in the classroom, and you just zone out and you're staring at something and you're not even necessarily aware of what it is that you're looking at, but the warmth perhaps, and the breeze perhaps, and the sounds perhaps, and the teacher or the classroom sounds perhaps all contribute to you noticing not very much at all. You being in a state where your unconscious mind simply likes the thought and the idea of paying attention, where your unconscious mind enjoys being in that state where you're not consciously aware of much, and you find yourself giving into that. And the more you experience that state of trance, whatever it feels like for you, because otherwise most people don't acknowledge or understand that they can be in a state of trance unless it feels a little bit different for them, although it's certainly possible to make that happen. You can feel how fascinating it is. You can stay there longer. You can tell yourself, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. It feels very, very good for your brain to understand that being in trance is natural and normal and useful, because once you're here, what does it feel like? How much can you enjoy that state? And how can you give in to being in a state of trance that is more persistent? That's what I like to call it. And I also like to use the word persistent when I talk about triggers. So for example, if you have a trigger that stops you in place, if you have a trigger that will pause you, if you are in trance and you hear that, and then your body stops in place, and then you are brought out of trance, you should know that as long as it's safe and appropriate, a trigger is persistent. That is to say that when you are in trance and the trigger is hooked in, that when you find yourself awake, you are still in that state of pause. If you are conscious and somebody says to you, pause, then it puts you in a state of trance, you are still in that state of being stopped. Why is that? It's because a trigger is persistent. It's because a trigger does not diminish when you go from one state to the other. And this is helpful to understand and to realize, because the more you find yourself accepting that, the more you find yourself giving in to that thought and that understanding, the more you can realize that a trigger, a suggestion, can be lifelong no matter what happens. And for hypnosis, this is really helpful for people who come to see a hypnotist for, say, better eating habits or quitting smoking, letting go of anxiety. These things are really helpful when you understand that your brain has the power, no matter what state you're in, to take a suggestion for change and to make it powerful and sticky and persistent. And as you find yourself thinking about how good it feels to let something be persistent, you can release and give in to just going more powerfully, more up, more down, more in, more out, to that state that you like best. Do you know how good it feels to be in a state of trance? And how can you find yourself accepting that that's where you want to be and that's how you can get there, and this is what it feels like, and how good it becomes for you to be right there? So go ahead and let your unconscious mind think about how wonderful it feels for you to be in trance. Allow your unconscious mind to think about how very important it is for you to have this ability within you, to have the agency for yourself, to give in to whatever state it is, to give in to the triggers, to give in to the suggestions, to make them strong and powerful, to allow your brain to understand that you can hold on to something now and from now on, as long as it's safe and appropriate for you, as long as it's good for you, as long as it's useful for you. You can change behavior by taking a suggestion, and you can let go of behaviors, thoughts, actions that you do not want anymore. And the more you find yourself thinking about how simple and easy that can be, the easier it can be for you to know that when you find yourself, for example, stopped in place. Now, some people like the word freeze. I like the word pause. I use those two things differently. They're not, in my world, they're not interchangeable, although they have very similar actions. So a pause stops you in place, but you can still hear and see what goes on around you. You can be partially unpaused if you'd like. And usually a freeze, you're unaware of what goes on. You can't hear, you can't see. So that's how people do things like teleportation spells. They pick you up and they move you, or they walk you over to a new spot, or they put you in front of a clock, and then they unfreeze you. And then you open your eyes, you're aware again, even if your eyes had been open before. And then all of a sudden, It's like the clock jumped to the new time, or you moved automatically to a new time. And isn't that fun? Those thoughts are so fun. I like the pause and release a little bit better simply because for me it gives me a lot more flexibility. I also like using that as a induction itself, as an induction itself. I like the idea of putting someone's hand or arm in a cataleptic state. I love doing that with handshake inductions, and I love putting somebody's body part in an altered state and then just releasing it to the rest of your body and your mind. I love that thought that your brain is capable of doing that your body is certainly capable of doing whatever your brain tells you to do, and that it can be so fun and exciting to let that happen. So find yourself thinking about a time and a place that you'd really like to feel. Find yourself imagining what it feels like to be in a space where your brain just knows that it's super comfortable. And when you find yourself experiencing a place, a time for you that's super comfortable, you can think about how when you're in trance, that also feels super comfortable, especially if you're brand new or if you're newer to hypnosis. You can notice how good it feels to be in that place, how comfortable it is, and as it feels even more comfortable, you can just accept that you find yourself wanting to be as comfortable in trance as you possibly can, to have as much agency over what you accept and what you don't accept as possible. You can find yourself completely happy to surrender and to give in to the sound of my voice, to the suggestions that you hear, to how good it feels to let your body simply know that it's under control of your brain. Isn't that fun? So what if your body is under control of your brain, and I give your brain the suggestion that you're going to start feeling like you're shrinking? Can your brain imagine what that would be like? Imagine your changing viewpoint if you were to go from, let's just say, a 4.5 to 6.5 foot person down to, I don't know, maybe the size of my ring right here, which is about almost 2 inches, I want to say. Could you imagine if you were staring at this ring and then all of a sudden you were shrunk down until you were just about the same size as it? How different do you think that would look? How big can I make this ring? Can you imagine what that would be like? It might crush you if you were a little tiny human. Or it might just be something that you would find yourself so attracted to, so thrilled at looking at. What if you were a little bit bigger? What if this was as big as your head? It could be like one of those things that you want to strap right onto your eyes and just keep staring at. So if this was as big as your head, you might be like 6 to 8 inches tall, something like that. And it could feel so good to just find yourself completely and absolutely lost in the gigantic magnificence that is this shiny, shiny stone. You might discover that if you looked around your world, that you felt a little bit vulnerable. You might want to attach yourself to an animal, if you were brave, the kitty cat or the puppy. You might want to fashion a saddle so you can ride around, or maybe the Roomba, I don't know. Let your brain think about how fascinating it might be to be so tiny. For you to be in that place where all of a sudden being so tiny and so wee just feels like there's a lot of possibility. Nothing is your size anymore, but you have an opportunity to make your way in a new kind of world, to explore things that you have never been able to see before, to discover new spaces, to make new tiny friends. Let your unconscious mind think about how fun that might be, how exciting that might be, what sorts of weaponry you might want, or tools you might find yourself making out of odds and ends that you find around the house. You might discover that pile of clothing you left on the floor, not such a big deal if you're you size, normal size, and you can kick it out of the way or pick it up. But if you are tiny, you might get a little lost in it. You might discover that it is a gigantic mountain that you could find yourself falling into. Or you might notice that a little puddle on the floor becomes something also less pleasant to take care of than you expect. Maybe you find yourself thinking about turning into a different kind of creature. Maybe you find yourself thinking about also adding wings or a tail for balance or additional arms and legs. I don't know. What does your brain come up with? How does your brain imagine that type of fantasy situation? How fun can it be for you to be in a place where you are so wee, where you are so very tiny, where you might want to find a protector to help you feel safe and secure, where you might discover that you just feel all sorts of bold at that size, because who's going to see you? Who's going to notice that you're there? Think of all the things you could do. And let your unconscious mind go a little nuts with that. Allow your unconscious mind to just delight in how very good it feels for you to say yes and to give in. Let your unconscious mind just really adapt to how good it feels to be so wee. And as your brain thinks about how good it feels to be so wee, perhaps you can notice that there is a fun sense of learning where you can go and what you can do with this size. Now, you could imagine alternately that you all of a sudden get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the shiny ring becomes this tiny little twinkle off in my hands in the distance. And maybe you find yourself, as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, I don't know how big you can get. I don't know how big you might want to get. I don't know if there's a character that you like to think about that you might find yourself engaging with that is much larger than you are normally. And you can allow yourself to think about how fun it feels for your brain to be in this place of simply knowing that you are going to enjoy being larger, that you're going to find yourself happily in that space where, are you a giant? Are you exactly like you? Have you changed to something else? However it feels, you can find yourself going more in that space right now. You can sleep now. You can drop deeply into trance now. You can give your unconscious mind over to these thoughts and these ideas now. The more you do these things, the better it feels, and the more you can imagine what that's like to really have to be careful of your head when you go through doorways, to really have to figure out how you can put yourself, fold your body into a car, or get comfy in bed, or sit on the sofa without breaking it. To think about all the things you can now reach for that perhaps you needed a ladder or a step stool for before. You can think of all the people in the store who might be like, oh, can you grab that off the top shelf for me? And depending on if you're in a sassy or salty mood, you might say yes or no. Would you just pick somebody up and let them grab it themselves? How would you find yourself dealing with that? If you noticed a wee little 4 to 6 inch you running around, would you pick them up and put them in your pocket and take them out for a spin? Let your brain think about all the fun things that you might find yourself doing and give in a little bit more and drop down a little bit more. And feel how important it is to just notice that whether you find yourself getting big or getting wee, your brain can know that those are triggers that you can find yourself giving yourself. Get big, get wee. Let your brain think about that for a moment. How do you accomplish that? How do you make yourself as big as you possibly can? And how do you make yourself as tiny as you possibly can? Let your brain think about that and just act on how to make that happen. Allow your unconscious mind to do its very best to just make that happen. You can give into just making that happen. Get big, get wee, get back to normal size. However your brain thinks about those things, notice all the differences when you're large or small. Can you move more slowly as a very large creature? Do you want to become a kaiju? Do you want to go smashing through buildings, fighting other radioactive critters? What does your brain do and where do you go? Find yourself giving into those a little bit and then go ahead and come back to normal. Come back to your normal size. You can allow your brain to be changed because you have get big or get wee and return to normal as triggers for you to play around with all on your own. And it just feels so good for your brain to be right there. So hold on to those thoughts and those ideas. And on the count of 10, find yourself coming back all the way, wide awake, feeling very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take a nice deep breath in. 8, move and stretch just a little bit. 9 and 10, wide awake. Go ahead and come all the way back. Feel how nice that is when you come all the way back. Feeling so good to be conscious, feeling so good to have some new choices for yourself, feeling so good to have new triggers for yourself, feeling so good to be able to put those together for yourself. Feeling so good for your brain to be happy in that position and in that place where you just keep saying yes. So I got a couple of these balloons and they are so shiny when they were blown up. I thought they were really fun. I guess the balloon actually is kind of bizarre in that way because it's good at responding to the screen. I love it, Lycan. That's not a great ASMR sound, is it? I'm pretty sticky, so... If you were still in trance, I bet you're awake now. Anyway, I saw these. I have blue and silver. They were so pretty. They were at Charmed. And after... I know, I'm so sorry, John. I won't make that sound again. They were just so pretty. It's a bizarre sound, yeah. If you have ideas for next week or any future trances, look how my hair is all sticking to me because it's so warm in here. Feel free to send me an email or a text, and I will see what I can incorporate into next Sundays. I do plan on being here next Sunday. I will not be here. I will not be here on May 18th, but I should be here every other week in May. Maybe not Memorial Day either, but not the 18th because I don't know when Memorial Day is. So if that's Memorial Day weekend, I'm not going to be here. But otherwise, I'm not going to be here on the 18th at any rate, and maybe also not the 25th, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to feel like if people are out celebrating, it's rude to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna not do balloon stuff again. Maybe when it's just blown up. So sorry. I hope your ears are fine. Anyway, I will see you next week. Thank you for being here. Let me know what else you would like to do for trance, and I will do my very best to bring that to us. So thank you. I will see you guys next week without that particular sound. I'm not going to make that sound.